All right, so to get us started, this is a look at what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to go over some of those common financial scams and then discuss a big one, which is predatory lending. Give you some tips or tricks to help avoid these scams. If you would come across something, how you can report that to the authorities and then share those resources with you. So a lot of the information we're sharing today came from these three sources. First, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is a government agency that really is out there to protect you from things like scams and make sure that people aren't harming your financial future. Investopedia, which is a website that has a lot of great financial information, and also the FDIC, which is again another government agency that is out there to help you protect your money. So thanks to them for giving us all of these resources. So hopping it over to Annie to get us started with our common scams.
All right, so we have a handful, maybe more than a handful of scams that we're just going to go over so you are better able to identify them if you come across them either online or via mail or in person. There are a few different kinds. So we're going to start with some of the more common ones, including a blackmail scam, which is when someone would try to scare you into sending them money by threatening to distribute private content that might embarrass you. They might ask you to wire money or send it using a mobile app or a gift card or even cryptocurrency. Sometimes they're strangers, and sometimes it could be someone that you know or that you met online and thought you could trust. So, what to do if you suspect that someone might be trying to pull a blackmail scam with you? Try to stay calm in spite of their high pressure tactics. Stop communicating with them and don't pay them. Keep all the messages as evidence for law enforcement. And you can also report blackmail to the police and to your local FBI field office. Then we have charity scams, which is when someone would pose as a real charity or make up a charity that sounds real to receive donations. These increase during the holiday season and also after natural disasters when people are often collecting funds to go towards something like that. So be careful when a charity calls to ask for donations, especially if they're suggesting that they're following up with a donation pledge that you don't remember making. Scammers might also try to get you to donate by using live streaming on social media platforms, altered images, or AI images and voices. So, what to do? Ask for detailed information about charities if you're donating to them, including their address and their phone number, and look the charity up through their website or through a trusted third party source to confirm if they're real. Moving on to grandparent scams. So, in these, someone calls posing as a grandchild or a relative asking for money to help them out of trouble. This is meant to play on your emotions, and it's commonly used to target older adults, especially during the holiday season. Artificial intelligence has made it easier to clone voices and alter images to make it seem like someone you know needs help, but they don't even always need to do that. And I actually have an example. My grandmother was almost caught in a grandparent scam. She received a phone call, and when she answered, somebody said grandma, and she said the name of one of my cousins, thinking it was them. And the person said, "Yep, that's me. I'm in jail. Don't tell my dad, and I need you to wire me money for bail." And my grandmother, who is now 91, she was on her way out the door to go to the bank to wire money to this person when she decided to call my dad. And he said, wait a minute. Let's check it out. So he called my cousin, who answered the phone sitting on his couch, not in jail, not in any trouble at all. So that was narrowly avoided by my grandmother. What to do? Beware of a caller who insists on secrecy and contact your relative yourself to verify their story. If you can't reach them, try to get in touch with them through another trusted person, another family member, or their friends. And we also have imposter scams, which are kind of a broader category. I think even grandparent scams could kind of fit into the imposter scams category. Imposters will try to convince you to send money or share account details by pretending to be someone you know and trust, like a relative or like a government employee. Some people, specifically older adults, have received phone calls or video calls from scammers using the CFPB employees' names. So the CFPB would not get in touch with people to tell them to pay fees or taxes related to a class action lawsuit or lottery. But scammers might also pose as law enforcement or even the IRS and threaten with legal consequences if you don't send money, or it might look like the call is coming from a bank or another company claiming that there's been a hack or fraudulent activity within your account. And they're doing all of this to try to get your account information. So what to do? Remember, caller ID and emails can be faked, voices can be cloned, and images altered. Call the bank, the company, the organization, the person, the government agency directly and ask if the person works for them and if there really is a problem that you need to take care of.
All right, for our next set, we're going to start with lottery and prize scams. So, scammers again will call or text or email you and tell you that you won a prize and then ask you to pay some upfront fees or maybe pay the taxes related to the prize that you won. They can again claim that they're from a federal agency like the CFPB and you have to do something. So, what to do to avoid getting caught in that scam? Avoid providing any personal or financial information to them, including any of your credit card numbers or social security numbers. If you don't know the person, you should not be giving them that information. Never make an upfront payment on a promised prize, especially if they demand that immediate payment before they will send you that prize. If you won something, you should be able to just get it outright. So if that seems a little fishy that you have to pay to get a prize first, it is probably because it was a scam. Next one for mail fraud. These letters can look very real, but they are giving you promises that are very fake again. They may require you to send money or give them personal information. A common one, again, that is similar to those lottery and prize scams, where they're going to ask for some information for you to receive something. It might have been a sweepstakes. You might have won some money, a prize, a vacation. Again, we would like to hopefully avoid these. So what do we do? Avoid giving anyone your personal information, social security numbers, any of your financial account information. And the USPS, our postal service, also has more information that they've identified on postal fraud schemes, which there will be a link. You can check that out later in our resources section. If the letter looks too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. And then finally, our man in the middle scams. So these scammers trick you into connecting to a fake network or a website, like if you're using Wi-Fi out in public, or you might be clicking on a fake link or an attachment in an email. And when you click on those things or connect to an incorrect network, what it does is it allows the scammer to see everything you're doing on your computer and they can track your movements. They might be able to see what letters you're typing in as passwords or account numbers. And so this is a cyber attack where they have seen your information and then they use that to steal your account logins, your passwords. They can get logged into your financial accounts and they can steal your personal information. They might also impersonate another person that you are trying to communicate with, like maybe you are actually trying to communicate with your real estate agent or a loan officer, and they're going to intercede on that behalf and steal that information and try to get you to communicate with them instead. And you think you're connecting with a legitimate person, but it is not. So what to do to avoid that? Try to avoid public wireless Wi-Fi networks if you can, or be very careful on which ones you're clicking when they pop up in your options of networks. Try to avoid those free charging stations that are in public places, because a lot of the times, once you plug your device in, it starts collecting all of your information. And don't click on any links you aren't sure what they are. Don't scan QR codes if you are not sure what they are. If you're looking at attachments in your email, again, don't download something if we're not sure what that is. And if you're getting unsolicited texts or emails, again, we want to avoid those. When you're getting emails from someone, you can always check the sender email address, even if it states my name as like what comes up as the sender. Check what the actual email is. If it is an email that does not in any way tie back to what my name is, you would know that that is someone who's impersonating me. Or if they're pretending to be your bank, but the email address is just a generic gobbledygook of letters and numbers at gmail.com, that's not going to be your bank. So that is how you can tell that that is a man in the middle scam. And you can also report all of those things to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, which we'll get to later as well.
So next up, we have money transfer or mobile payment services fraud. And this is really kind of a subtype of a lot of these different scams. It's just the method that they use. So someone might use money and wire transfer services to steal people's money. So they might say they're from a government agency or someone that you know. So what to do? Only use mobile payment services with family, friends, and others you know and trust. That's the safest way to protect your money as you use those services like Venmo or PayPal or Cash App, all of those. Never send money to someone you don't know. If you think you made a money transfer or a mobile app payment to a scammer, make sure you're contacting your bank or the company you use to send money immediately and alert them that there might have been an unauthorized transaction. And you can make a complaint about these to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. We have a link to that later on. Another one is romance scams. An online love interest might trick you into falling for them and ask you for money or access to your finances. They might spend real time getting to know you and developing your trust in them to fool you into thinking the relationship is real before they ask you for money or a loan or your financial information. So, what to do? Be careful about who you connect with and what information you share online or over text and social media. Don't send money or share sensitive personal information such as bank account or credit card numbers or your social security number with a new romantic interest. And we also have our sale of non-existent goods or services scams. This one, someone might trick people into sending money without providing the merchandise or send merchandise without providing the payment or money promised in exchange. So they might offer to sell you something, but then they never send the merchandise once you pay. Or they may offer to buy something from you on like Facebook Marketplace, for example, but they never complete the payment once they receive the item. They might even appear to send the payment, but then they'll cancel it through their bank or whatever money transfer before it reaches your bank account. What to do? Never send money to someone you don't know. If you think you made a payment to a scammer, contact your bank immediately and alert them that there may have been an unauthorized transaction. And whenever you're using like buying and selling things like Facebook Marketplace, you can use something like PayPal or another third party trusted sales website to help you make that sale without putting your money or your merchandise at risk.
All right, our last one that we've got are debt and mortgage scams. So, debt collection scams are when a scammer poses as a collector on a legitimate debt that you might owe, or they pose as a collector for debts that you do not owe. So, what to do if this would happen? Ask that debt collector for their company information, like the name and mailing address, and information about the debt that they say that you owe. And then be on the lookout for threats of criminal charges or other warning signs that they might not be a legitimate collector. And when you're asking for that information on the debt that they're saying you owe, you want to be able to compare that to your credit report. So you want to regularly pull your credit report, see what debts are listed on there. So if they're saying you owe something that you know is not on your credit report, you don't remember ever having this debt, it's probably not a legitimate thing. For debt settlement and debt relief scams, these people promise to renegotiate, settle, or change the terms of a debt that you owe. And dealing with debt settlement companies can be risky and leave you in even further debt, which we would not want to have happen. So, what to do instead? Try to avoid doing business with any company that guarantees that they can settle your debts, especially if that company is going to charge upfront a lot of fees before performing any services for you. Instead, what you can do is work with a reputable nonprofit credit counseling program that can help you work with your creditors. So the fact that they're a nonprofit, they are not out there to make money off of you and charge you crazy fees. And we actually have one of these local agencies in the Pittsburgh area. So they are called Advantage Credit Counseling. They do this all the time, and they can actually help you figure out if there are ways to get debt relief that are legitimate. For the foreclosure relief and mortgage modification scams, these are promises to save you from foreclosure, but what they're actually trying to do is just outright take your home from you. They may ask you to pay upfront fees for their service. They may guarantee a loan modification, and they may ask you to sign over the title of your property or ask you to sign a bunch of paperwork that you don't understand what the paperwork is. So what to do if that would happen? First, if you're having trouble making payments on your mortgage, you would want to talk to what is called a HUD-approved housing counselor, and HUD is a government agency, the Housing and Urban Development Agency. And these are certified counselors that can help help you assess what your options are and then hopefully avoid scams and figure out the right way to move forward. If you think you've been a victim of a foreclosure relief scam, you may also want to find legal help through a local bar association or legal aid agency because they can help represent you in those claims. And then finally, our mortgage closing scams. These are when scammers pose as your real estate agent when you're trying to close on a house because what they want to do is steal those closing funds from you. They might pose as a title company, an escrow officer, or an attorney in order to get you to pay them the mortgage closing costs instead of the real person that you're supposed to be, or the real company you're supposed to be paying those fees to. And these schemes are often very complex and appear as legitimate conversations with a real estate agency or a settlement agent. And when you're about to close on your home, you want to identify trusted individuals that you can confirm the process with and payment instructions with, and then write down their name and contact information so you can reach out to them directly. So if you've been talking to the same person through the whole process and a new person pops up, you want to check them out and make sure that they are not a scam, or if they are a scam, avoid them and go back to that original company that we were working with.
So we have some warning signs here, which are really just kind of a summary of some of the main points to look out for with these kinds of common scams we discussed. So if anyone is claiming to be from the government, from a bank or a business, or even a family member of yours, and they're asking to pay you money, they're asking you to pay money, then you want to make sure that you're really communicating with the person you think you are before you pay any money and make sure it's for a legitimate reason. If someone asks you to pay money or taxes upfront to receive a gift or a prize, that's a big red flag. If someone is asking you to send money, especially in these ways, by wire transfer, cryptocurrency, especially by courier, over a payment app, or put money on a prepaid card or gift card, that's also a red flag. If someone is asking for access to your money, whether it's through ATM cards, bank accounts, credit cards, cryptocurrency, access codes, or investment accounts, and also, if you are talking to someone and they are trying to create a sense of urgency or emergency to play on your emotions and get you to act quickly and hurry up, like my grandma was running out the door to go to the bank to send a wire transfer to my fake cousin, creating that sense of urgency or emergency, that's a big red flag for you to realize that you need to slow down for a second and make sure that what you're about to do is legitimate.
All right, shifting over to our next category of predatory lending. So, what is predatory lending? This is lending that imposes an unfair, deceptive, or abusive loan term onto borrowers. And this often includes very high fees or interest rates. It might strip the borrower of their equity in an asset or place a creditworthy borrower into a lower credit rating, lower credit rated, and often more expensive loan. And what it does is it's basically putting you at the disadvantage and it's giving all of the benefits to that lender instead.
So to go a little further into predatory lending, predatory lenders will use deceptive or fraudulent actions or a lack of transparency to entice, induce, and assist a borrower in taking out a loan that they will not reasonably be able to pay back. They may use some of the same tactics that the scammers we were talking about before are using, whether that's creating that sense of urgency to get you to act quickly, promising more than they're able to give, or pushing you to sign something before you fully understand the terms. Predatory lenders will also target those with fewer credit options and those who are vulnerable in other ways, like people with low income who have regular and urgent need for cash to make ends meet, those with low credit scores who have fewer options for receiving funds, those with less education, or those subject to discriminatory lending practices because of their race, ethnicity, age, or disability. They will also target communities where few other credit options exist, which makes it more difficult for borrowers to shop around. And what you want to remember about predatory lending is that it is designed above all to benefit the lender and ignores or hinders the borrower's ability to repay that debt.
So we'll go through some examples of what predatory lending looks like. Loan sharks will provide loans at an extremely high interest rate, and they may threaten violence when they want to collect their money back from the loan. And this is what we often see frequently in TVs or movies, and they might be considered more egregious than some of the other nuanced or harder to spot predatory lending that we're going to look at. Payday loans are another, unfortunately, popular one that happens. This provides an extremely high interest rate again, and it's usually used to cover expenses for a short period of time. And they're called payday loans because they're often used by people who have a big expense that they need to pay while they're waiting for their next paycheck, and they intend to pay back that loan as soon as they're paid. And these are predatory interest rates and extremely high when we say that. It can be between 390% up to almost 800%. So what happens is the borrower ends up owing a lot more back than they originally took out, and they end up owing a lot more than they're able to pay. So to put that in context, if you take out a loan of $1,000 and the interest rate on that is 390%, it means you basically have to pay back the value of your loan 4 times. You're going to have to pay back almost $4,000, and you often have to pay that back in a very short time frame, which is impossible for a lot of people. And so what it does is you kind of get stuck in this cycle of keep having to take out payday loans to pay back other loans and to afford these other expenses that you're just normal expenses we're trying to pay. Equity stripping is another example. This is when a lender convinces you to refinance an asset that you already have. It might be a car, it might be your house. And they use that asset as a basis to provide the loan, but again, with very hard to meet payment or interest terms. And so once the borrower is unable to meet those loan terms, that asset that you put as collateral, whether that's your car or your house, it can then be seized by who the lender was, which is really unfortunate if you would lose your house all of a sudden. And then steering is when lenders push a borrower to an expensive subprime loan, even when they have a high enough credit score and other factors that would qualify them for a prime loan, and prime loans have more favorable terms, lower interest rates and things like that. So they're pushing you to something that is going to be more expensive, even if you could afford the alternative.
So next we have some warning signs of predatory lending for you to look out for. First is aggressive sales tactics, which might happen by phone, by mail, or even door to door. Someone who makes you really uncomfortable and like you're unable to say no to what they're offering you would be an aggressive sales tactic. We also see excessive and sometimes abusive fees. These are often downplayed because they're not included in the interest rate of the loan. So if someone is saying that they have a lower interest rate, but they're not telling you about all the fees associated, then you might end up paying more than you expected. And according to the FDIC, fees totaling more than 5% of the loan amount are not uncommon. Oh, there are often sometimes fees for paying off a loan early or making advance payments as well. So that's a huge red flag for predatory lending. If they are going to charge you for paying it off sooner than you expected, then that's a big problem. Balloon payments. This is when there is one substantial payment at the end of a loan's term. And this is often used by predatory lenders to make your monthly payment look low. So you make all of your monthly payments until at the end, this large payment comes that if you're not expecting, you maybe can't afford. And then that forces you to refinance or incur new costs or default on that loan just because you're unable to make that one payment. Loan flipping, this is when the lender pressures a borrower to refinance a loan again and again, which generates more fees and more points for the lender each time and puts the borrower under an escalating debt burden. And then lastly, we have unnecessary add-ons or upselling. So if you're, for example, you're working on a mortgage and someone's trying to convince you to add on a single premium life insurance policy, that's an unnecessary add-on. And you can assume that that lender is doing something predatory. They're trying to get that extra sale for something that you weren't shopping for in the first place.
All right, so now we're going to look at some tips and tricks to help you all avoid these things. So don't respond to any unsolicited texts or emails or social media messages. If you think it's weird that a bank is trying to reach you on social media, you're probably correct, and that's probably actually a scammer. Be wary of clicking on any links or opening any attachments in these unsolicited messages, because once we do that, that's when the scammers start collecting all of our personal data. Resist that pressure to act immediately. Monitor and review your financial accounts. If you know the status of your accounts or any of your loans and debts, you'll know if someone is lying to you about something going on with one of your accounts. You want to use strong, unique passwords, and then don't share passwords between sites, because if they get like your Facebook password and you used it for your bank account, now they can get in and do what they want with your money. Do not pay up front for any promised prizes. After you hear any sales pitch, take time to think about what they've said and compare the prices between that and one of their competitors. You shouldn't have to immediately respond to that. Beware when someone plays on your emotions and claims that there's an urgent situation. Again, you should be able to think and consider what they have said to you and react in your own timing, not just because they're creating a sense of urgency for you. Think about putting your phone number on the National Do Not Call Registry. Definitely, any phone number you have. If you've got a house phone and a cell phone, put them both on there. If you've just got your cell phone, at least put that there. If people are calling you, once you've been listed on that, you can also report them for breaking that law. And just the basic thought to consider with all of this, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So we all wish we could get the tons of dollars, but if it sounds like it's too good to be true based on what you know about an agency or someone who's coming to you, consider that it's probably a scam.
And next, we're going to talk about a few ways to report financial scams if you come across them. So first and foremost, you can contact your local police and your state attorney general to report a scam, whether you were a victim or it's just something that you came across and maybe you were almost a victim of a scam, but you realized at the last second. You can also report any consumer scams to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and I've included their website on the resources page. For any scams involving the internet, such as mobile payment apps, you can report these to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. And finally, if the victim is an older person or a person with a disability, you can contact your Adult Protective Services Agency. I have the number for Allegheny counties on the resource page to make sure that that's being taken care of.
All right, and then this slide is about to be the one with a bunch of links. You don't have to write them down because we will give you all of this. But these are the resources that we've collected for you. And again, a reminder, a lot of the information today came from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Their website has a lot of great financial management information on all sorts of topics you may want to learn. Investopedia, again, was a resource for this, as well as the FDIC. They all have great information. Please peruse their websites as you have time so you can learn more. If you are noticing any mail fraud coming through your letters, there is the link to report that to the Postal Service, and then the website and phone number to put yourself on the Do Not Call registry. If you have come across scams that you need to report, here are several of those options for you. We've got the PA Attorney General, the FTC, the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, and then that number for the Allegheny County Adult Protective Services if the victim of a scam was older, over 60, or they have a disability, and they can help interact on that person's behalf. And then finally, if you're looking for just more information on financial education topics, please check out our website because we do one of these different topics monthly. And then also our partner, the Allegheny County Financial Empowerment Center, is great. They can provide free one-on-one financial counseling on a variety of topics for you. They're at our building in Turtle Creek every Wednesday, but they have sites across the county and also do online meetings as well. So they are fantastic to get connected with.